Have you ever felt like you're living on autopilot? Like your body keeps going, but your soul got left behind? Sometimes we wake up already tired, before we've even gotten out of bed, and we think, it's age, it's time. But what if the tiredness isn't from time passing, but from what we've been putting inside ourselves every day without even realizing? The bread that comforted loneliness, the coffee that warmed up silences, the sweet treat that became a source of solace. All of that, over time, leaves marks we can't see, but we can feel them. Mood swings, aches that come and go, the desire to live, but without the strength to begin. Today, I want to open a window of awareness with you, to show you something that maybe no one's ever told you about what's happening inside your body after 50. Stay with me till the end, because maybe what you're feeling isn't the end. Maybe it's just your body asking to feel alive again. There's a kind of hunger that doesn't start in the stomach. It starts in the chest, in the silence of late afternoon, in that moment when the house feels too quiet and you feel like something's missing. That's when we head to the kitchen, open the cupboard, the fridge, and search, without really knowing what for. A piece of bread, a biscuit, a forgotten sweet at the back of the drawer. We call it comfort, but deep down, it's just a pause, an emotional anesthetic that enters like a hug and leaves like a weight. Warm bread feels like an embrace, sugar like a cuddle, pasta like a moment of rest. But afterwards, the body takes its toll. Fatigue hits, your energy drops, that sluggishness that clouds even your thinking, and we blame age. But it's the vicious cycle of food as refuge. Because sugar, especially, doesn't just affect the body. It speaks to the tired soul. It offers a relief that doesn't last, but hooks you in. And the more we seek that hug, the further we drift from ourselves. Have you noticed how, after a heavy meal, the world seems to slow down, as if even your hope needs a nap? It's because the body feels it. After 50, it won't just swallow anything. It asks for presence. It asks for truth. But it's hard, because there's a pain that food tries to heal and doesn't. It only delays, only quiets. That's why replacing those foods isn't punishment. It's liberation. It's not about stopping eating. It's about choosing what nourishes without hurting. A warm, homemade soup, a fresh fruit that smells like childhood, a handful of nuts, a tea brewed with intention. Simple things, living things, things that nourish without a price tag. It's not about being radical. It's about embracing yourself in a different way. Because when food stops being comfort, it can start being healing. And that healing starts on your plate, but ends in your heart. Maybe what you've been calling hunger is really just missing yourself. They come wrapped in bright colors, with easy names, ready-made flavors, textures that please from the first bite. They're quick, they're convenient, and they promise to fix hunger in minutes. But the question I had to ask myself was, fix hunger for what? Because after a while I realized these foods weren't feeding my hunger, just distracting it. And while they distracted me, they were quietly making me sick. Most of them have labels that seem harmless, but behind that familiar taste is a buildup of things the body doesn't recognize. Preservatives that overload, colorings that confuse, sodium that suffocates. And all of it keeps building up, like invisible dust in the corners of the soul. We can't see it, but we feel it. A random bloating, a discomfort that won't go away, an irritation that comes out of nowhere. Because after 50, the body doesn't pretend everything's fine anymore. It runs out of patience, runs out of resilience, runs out of silence. We used to eat anything and move on. Now, the body responds. It says, enough, through joint pain, through relentless insomnia, through a fatigue that even rest won't fix. And I know, it's hard to let go of what's become a habit, hard to change what once seemed so easy. But the price of convenience is sometimes the loss of presence. Because when you're inflamed inside, it's like trying to smile with your soul suffocating, and no one can bear that for long. I started to see that if I wanted clarity, I had to stop feeding the confusion. If I wanted lightness, I had to stop consuming heaviness dressed as flavor. It happened slowly. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. Now I look at ready-made foods with different eyes, not with guilt, but with awareness, with a finer kind of listening, with the intention to care, not punish, because what goes in your mouth shapes what you feel, and your peace begins where inflammation ends. Maybe the exhaustion you're feeling isn't from life, it's just from what you've been eating to try to stay standing. For many years, coffee was my most loyal ally. It was the one that pulled me by the hand on grey mornings, that cradled me through sleepy afternoons, and made me believe I could still push on, even when I couldn't. Then came alcohol, disguised as celebration, a well-earned break, a just a little to relax. And for a while it seemed to work, seemed light, almost harmless. But inside, the burnout had already begun. Because what no one tells you is that there's a big difference between stimulation and sustenance, between pleasure and presence. Coffee in excess doesn't give you energy, it lends it, and it charges high interest, insomnia, anxiety, a racing heart, a restlessness that won't ease even when everything around you is quiet. Alcohol, even the social kind, doesn't relax the body, it numbs, mutes the signals, puts the soul to sleep for a few hours, then returns it even more drained, more empty. But we keep going, because stopping means facing what's behind the rush and the escape. Stopping means listening to what hurts. It took me time to realize it wasn't the coffee, it wasn't the wine, it was the emptiness inside I was trying to fill with sips. And still, this isn't about guilt, it's about clarity. Because there comes a time in life when we can no longer keep drugging ourselves with stimuli. The soul asks for presence. The body asks for kindness. The heart asks for true rest, not just breaks dressed up in labels. Setting a boundary isn't saying no to joy. It's saying yes to your wholeness. It's choosing to be fully awake. It's stopping the cycle of running from yourself. Today, I still enjoy the smell of coffee. Still celebrate moments at the table, but I no longer let myself be hijacked, because I've learned that real pleasure doesn't weigh you down afterwards. Maybe what's draining your strength isn't the world out there, but the small excesses you've learned to call a reward. For a long time, I never linked my exhaustion to what was happening inside my gut. It felt like just another part of the body, an automatic function. Something that only deserved attention when it hurt. But one day, tired of feeling exhausted, I started to pay closer attention, and I noticed that there, right there, at the center of my body, something was trying to tell me the truth. An inflamed gut doesn't scream, it whispers, with bloating that arrives uninvited, with digestion that feels slow, heavy, and quiet. And little by little, it starts stealing more than just nutrients. Stealing focus, stealing lightness, stealing joy. Because the gut isn't just a part of the body, it's a bridge between what you feel and what you think, between what goes in and what you're capable of transforming. When it's out of balance, everything else around it gets thrown off too, and the culprits aren't always obvious. Gluten, lactose, ultra-processed foods, foods that seemed like part of everyday life, but that slowly became invisible saboteurs of my vitality. It was as if every time I ate them, my body had to fight a silent battle. And that fight drained me. I began to realize my forgetfulness wasn't just age. My irritability wasn't just from a hard day. My constant sadness wasn't just life. It was my body trying to protect me, trying to warn me, trying to bring me back to myself. And when I started removing the excess, I didn't lose flavor. I gained presence. I replaced them with foods that were alive, light, real. Things that didn't fight my body. They spoke to it. Fresh fruits, fiber, roots, natural ferments. Simple foods, but ones that made my soul want to stay longer in this home. It's not magic. It's listening. It's reconciliation. Because the body doesn't want punishment. It wants peace, health that doesn't hurt, nourishment that doesn't weigh you down, and choices that don't confuse you. Maybe what you're missing isn't energy, but a peaceful gut, capable of giving your heart back the strength it forgot how to feel. We spend our whole lives chasing what seems grand, But deep down, it's the simple things that rebuild us. After so many years eating out of hurry, habit, or emptiness, I had to relearn how to eat like someone who's finding themselves again. Not to fit into a mold, but to fit back into myself. That's when I realized there's food that weighs you down, and food that sets you free, food that numbs, and food that awakens. When I started surrounding myself with living foods, something in me came back to life too. Roots that grounded, leaves that cleansed me from the inside, clean proteins that brought back strength without tension, natural spices that returned good memories. From childhood, from times when a lit stove meant someone cared. Then came the teas, not as a trend, but as rituals. Hot water, plant, time, three elements that together taught me how to slow down. The seeds followed, small, quiet, but with a power to rebuild I'd never imagined. Flaxseed, chia, sunflower, not just food, but presence. And the most important thing, intention. Because eating in a rush is living half a life. But eating with intention is telling your body, I'm here. I care about you. The table stopped being just a place to fill my stomach and became an altar of reconnection, a moment where the phone is put aside, where the TV goes quiet, where food is looked at, smelled, respected. Eating became more than nutrition. It became a silent prayer, an act of coming home to myself. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be rare. It has to be real, because the body knows when it's being cared for, and it responds with more lightness, more focus, less pain, more life. Sometimes what you need isn't a new recipe. It's just a new way of seeing what's already in front of you. There comes a moment when the body begins to whisper, but if we don't listen, it shouts. And the shout comes in the form of pain, of fatigue, of nameless anxiety. We think we're getting old, but often we're just carrying weight that no longer fits inside us. It was only when I started looking with more care at what I was putting on my plate that I realized how much I'd been sabotaging myself in the name of hurry, of hunger, of habit. Bit by bit, I chose myself again, and the body, quietly, began to thank me. I felt more energy in the morning, less irritation with the world, more desire to leave the house, to move, to live. Emotional hunger found new ways to be comforted. The mind slowed down, and the heart, once always heavy, began to beat with more ease. No, I didn't become a role model. I don't follow formulas, but today I listen to my body like an old friend, with patience, with respect, with time. Because after 50, life changes its tone, but it doesn't end. It invites, and the plate can be that new beginning. Simple, silent, loving. You don't need to follow trends or punish yourself. You just need to remember there's a body in there waiting for you to return with presence. Because the strength you're missing might be on the plate, but the choice begins with awareness. And even if it feels too late, even if you think you've drifted too far, the truth is, the time to start over isn't back there. It's here, right now, in your next action, in the next food you give yourself. Not as punishment, but as care. You still have time. Time to rebuild from within, to restore what's been worn down, to feel the flavor of your own life again. And maybe that's all it takes. You, for you, present, whole, home again.